Not to brag, but the Iowa Supreme Court has been a leader in guaranteeing civil rights and freedom for people since its very first meeting. One of the great decisions ever given involved freedom of the press, and it involved 5 women from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the Cherry Sisters, who were, without a doubt, the worst act in the history of America. The Cherry Sisters were 5 women: Effie, Addie, Jessie, Lizzie, and Ellie. And they had kind of a tough upbringing. And they grew up and they got under the influence of some piano player or something, and ultimately they decided to have an act. And they were just awful. They couldn't dance, they couldn't sing, they couldn't even talk very well. And they received some fame around the Midwest for being so awful. At about that time, in 1896, a man named Oscar Hammerstein, he was going broke in New York. He was a promoter, and he's going broke. And he said, "I'm going broke with the best acts in America. Find me the worst." And so they sent for the Cherry Sisters from Cedar Rapids. The Cherry Sisters opened at the New Victoria Theater in 1896 to a packed audience and unbelievable reviews. The New York Times said, never before has Broadway seen an act like the Cherry Sisters from Iowa. It's hoped they will never see an act like that again. But people flocked to see them because they were so awful. And after a few days, the theater people put up a screen, a net in front of them, because young men were coming and throwing vegetables and rutabagas and lemons and everything at them. Became great sport. But they saved his empire. They were there for 6 weeks, and they saved his empire. After the show closed, they went on the road, and they were huge hits everywhere. And they came to Iowa around the turn of the century, and they appeared in little towns around Iowa, and then ultimately in Des Moines. After their appearance in Des Moines, the Des Moines Leader, which was a forerunner of the Des Moines Register, wrote a review, and in the review they quoted Billy Hamilton of the Odebolt Chronicle. Here's what Billy Hamilton had said. Let me read this. The Des Moines Leader wrote, Billy Hamilton of the Odebolt Chronicle gives the Cherry Sisters the following graphic write-up on the late appearance in his town. Effie is an old jade of 50 summers. Jessie, a frisky filly of 40. And Addie, the flower of the family, a capering monstrosity of 35. Their long, skinny arms, equipped with talons at the extremities, swung mechanically, and anon waved frantically at the suffering audience. The mouths of their rancid features opened like caverns, and sounds like the wailing of damned souls issued therefrom. They pranced around the stage, strange creatures with painted faces and hideous mane. Effie is spavined, Addie is stringhalt, and Jessie, the only one who showed her stockings, has legs with calves as classic in their outlines as the curves of a broom handle. Well, the ladies didn't like that very much, and so they sued. They sued in Polk County District Court, and among other things, they performed in court to show their skills. Well, the judge ruled in favor of the newspaper and basically threw it out. So they appealed to the Iowa Supreme Court. And in 1901, 116 years ago, from this week, the Iowa Supreme Court unanimously upheld the decision. But what's important about it was not that they upheld the decision, but in upholding it, they said, in effect, there's no such thing as a wrong opinion. Anybody can say there's libel based on facts, but opinions are opinions, and there's you can't have a wrong opinion. I mean, it's your opinion, and that no court had ever said that in America before, and that set the stage for freedom for editorial writers and critics and sports writers and everybody else who expressed their opinion in their writing. It really changed newspapering and magazine writing. It provided a shield of protection that had never existed before. And it took 75 years before the Supreme Court of the United States ultimately made the same ruling. There's texts on libel and everything, and they always trace everything back to the Cherry sisters. After they lost, they continued to go around and tried to revive their career. It didn't work very well, and so they went back to Cedar Rapids, and Effie ran for mayor on the moral uplift ticket. And her campaign, she had two things. Let me read this. Make sure I get it right. She said, as she campaigned, she said, "It's the high prices, high skirts, high life, one-piece bathing suits, high gas light and water rates, and white-collared gasoline hounds I'm after. Public officials spend too much time playing golf. Women's skirts are ridiculous. They are too short. Ankle-length skirts will be the style if I have my way." She also advocated a 9 p.m. Curfew. She also said that if I am nominated and elected, I shall brush aside the wave of infidelity which is seeking to crush the ideals of our children. Well, the election was held, and there was a four-way primary. Mayor J.F. Rawl got 3,413 votes. W.G. Loftus received 2,899. Frederick Burrill got 566, and 347 people voted for Effie. Their careers kind of petered out, and they all died sort of in poverty and unhappy deaths. But they left their mark, not because they were the worst act in the history of America, but because they were so bad that the Iowa Supreme Court said, bad as they were, you're free to say it, because there's no such thing as a false opinion. So it's a great decision to be proud of. It's one in a series of great decisions by the Iowa Supreme Court that started with the ruling that slavery could not exist in Iowa and went up to the Varnum case and beyond.